Welcome to the Monsoon Academy podcast, a transitions research initiative where we aim to help you map your climate career journey through conversations with diverse industry professionals across the sustainability landscape. You will hear from seasoned experts who have worked on addressing climate issues in South Asia, about what their day-to-day work looks like, what kind of skills you will need to be a competitive candidate for those roles, and to see the kind of opportunities that are out there. Let's make the future green together. I'm your host, Shantha Venugopal.
Today's guest is Sayesha Dogra, the founder of Climate Party, which she calls the LinkedIn for climate change in India, a platform to enable climate-motivated individuals to cross-pollinate ideas and collaborate on solutions. Climate parties have already been held across 6 cities in India and hosted over 1,200 people. She is also the author of Anticlimatic, a blog where she breaks down complex science related to climate change issues into simple terms, a cause that really resonates with our ethos at MAP as well. Welcome to our podcast, Ms. Dogra.
Thanks, Shantha. Lovely to be here.
So, for our first question, we'd like to know a little bit more about your journey to reaching where you are today.
For me, it's been a journey which has had a lot of variety, but probably I'll put that in short. I am a chartered accountant by education and did my MBA from Indian School of Business. And before I got into climate, I have been in the fields of consulting, venture capital, and startups, especially e-commerce. And somewhere in the process during 2022, I got an opportunity to be on an expedition to Antarctica with an amazing bunch of people from about 37 countries, where we really learned about what climate change means and feels like. And what I brought back was probably a very personal experience of climate change after I saw a bunch of things while I experienced the ecosystem of Antarctica. And that really kicked a purpose inside me where I was questioning my career goals and what I'm doing in life every day. It was quite a battle that I fought. After much deliberation, I chose to just quit my job and figure out my journey in the climate space. And of course, I had no plan how I'd go about it. All I knew was this is the direction I need to head to, but I had to figure out my path in that direction. And essentially, that is where I call my expedition to Antarctica the journey of my lifetime, which was actually one of the biggest inflection points in my life.
Can I ask how you got on that trip and what made you take that opportunity in the first place, especially considering your career before that had such a different industry behind it?
Right. So, from my childhood and how I grew up, again, this is after I connected dots later on in life, and this is all hindsight talk that I'm talking. I figured that I always had this thing for conserving energy and reducing waste. I did that at a personal level and at a small community level, be it in my office or wherever I was. And in somewhere in 2017, I got to know about this program run by Sir Robert Swan. And at that point in time, I had just completed my CA and a few years passed. And I think that note that I had, that mental note kind of came to fore. And while I was at ISB, I had time at hand. And I was like, why not just take a shot and apply for it? So the program is called Leadership at the Edge, where the foundation, that's called 2041 Foundation, they select about 72 people from across the world and take them to Antarctica to really help them understand what climate change really means and looks like. So we have a bunch of sessions on board where we have experts from all across the world come and explain to us, the science, technologies, and social aspects of climate change.
It sounds like a really amazing and life-changing experience. And I think in case our listeners are interested, they should definitely check out your blog, Anticlimatic, to read more about your experience there and maybe even when they find the time apply to something like that. Because I think it gave you so much inspiration, right, for the rest of your career.
Since you mentioned, again, for the listeners, I think I did one piece specifically on Antarctica on Anticlimatic. So in case somebody's really interested to know what a journey to Antarctica looks like, can feel free to jump on and read it.
So now that you've told us your journey to getting there, what is your work today like? And is it what you expected?
So I think I'll answer the second question first.
Sure.
That I jumped into climate with no background, right? When I say no background at all, no educational background, no connects to people who are already working in this space. And while, when I took the plunge, I was not even working in India, I was working in Dubai. So like I said, I had no plan, but during my transition period, I got lucky with a fellowship at a particular philanthropy fund where I again had the chance to be part of their environment vertical, which was essentially my first step, rather a foot through the door to really get acquainted with people working in this space, especially founders. And that is where I think the journey began. I happened to drop out of the fellowship because I wanted kind of get on the operating side, figure out something that I really would want to do. And that is where I think when I was all on my own and trying to figure people to talk to navigate my way, I found that it was not easy to find the right people, the most relevant people. And, essentially the climate party really began in a sense to solve a problem for myself. That, during this period, I realized that there is no one platform which I can turn to and find or discover the right. So I really started the climate party properly in April or May last year, 2023. It actually began with a very small meetup where I literally put LinkedIn post asking people working in climate to get together in a community park, and 20 of them showed up. And of course, at that point in time, it was not a climate party. But yeah, from there, say April to May until November last year, it was more like a passion project for me while I was still looking for my place in the whole climate space. But I think the journey that I had with the climate party and the amount of tangible impact being created that I saw, and of course, with a lot of encouragement from the community members, I chose to do it full time and really build out a bigger platform out of the climate party. And coming to what my work entails, right? So for the larger journey until now, I've been on my own, but eventually I have been lucky to have a team of about 9 people who've been volunteering their time to help us execute the climate parties and also ideate a few of them across different cities. So for me, my work entails doing everything. I am the HR, I am the social media manager, I am the one reaching out to people, I'm the one who really address customer grievances, if any. So anything has been mostly me. But now, of course, because now we want to move to a next orbit, bigger things, and that is where I've started delegating work. When that is where volunteers have been helping me.
It sounds like a lot of work, but of course, very fruitful work. So I'm sure you're excited with the results so far. But were there any unexpected challenges or rewards to this journey in building your whole business model and climate parties and how to get the word out there and making the networks you need?
Yeah, so I think what I knew I was beginning with was already hard. Unlike communities, which in this era I would say start online because that's the easiest way to get a word out, right? I didn't want to do that. Again, that was a combination of my own experience at being in online platforms where, initially you feel great to be connected to a lot of people. But, in this era, I would say start online because it's the easiest way to get a word out, right? I didn't want to do that. Again, that was a combination of my own experience at being in online platforms where, initially you feel great to be connected to a lot of people. But in terms of real impact or real connections, it fades out really soon. All you get lost in all Slack channels. It's very difficult to, reach out to people to have conversations. I mean, figuring out time, etc. I mean, again, this is a journey in itself where you realize that, this probably isn't the most sustainable way. Since I was coming from consumer tech, which I figured that anything that starts online eventually has to get offline to make real money, right? I mean, today's world is about being omni-channel. You have to be physically and virtually there. Now, for me, the idea was to really understand whether India needs a place like the climate party, and it would make sense to take it offline first, because my hypothesis was if I'm able to crack offline, taking it online will be much, much simpler. And that is what I've seen play out. So most of the time, again, we've been extremely high on experimenting a lot of formats. The way done our climate parties is something I feel is first of a kind because nobody does or brings so many people together and makes created such an inclusive platform anywhere. If you already know, we also bring together a lot of climate games to build awareness and help people learn. And we by now have the largest repository of climate games accessed from all across the world. So yeah, challenges, of course, figuring out partnerships, how to keep it zero cost. But we've done all of that. So I think challenges is a natural course run by any entrepreneur, right? But in terms of, I would say, rewards, I think rewards have far exceeded the challenges. And probably that's what's kept me on the journey. The good part about climate is that it's a horizontal which cuts across all verticals, touches every part of our lives, right? Which gives you access to almost everyone. So, in my journey over the last 1 year or so, I have had a chance to meet so many people, and not just meet, also build long term relationships with people across domains, across skill sets. People right from artists to scientists. And that is something I would never have gotten a chance to do if I were working where I was working, right? You were so siloed in what you're doing. So I think I credit that one thing to climate change for being the horizontal and giving me access to so many people who are doing some great, great work.
So, in that same vein, what advice would you give to the next generation of people who could be either climate professionals themselves or inspired to do climate action work? What do you think are the skills that they most require to navigate the current landscape that you've navigated so well?
Climate change as an industry, obviously it's been there for a while, but as an industry in India, it's still nascent, which means that you have to build a lot of things from scratch. You have a lot of problems to solve, which actually is a big opportunity pool. But then you don't really have existing playbooks. You can at best pick up lessons from different other industries and put them together here, experiment. And that's essentially what I've been doing. But I think what really stands out are majorly two things. One, because we are at a very nascent stage and it's a long game that everybody needs to play for to really see the fruits bear, is to have that mission oriented mindset. I mean, unless you're passionate about it, it'll be difficult for you to survive in the long. You lose hope, patience very soon. So that's there. And second is the ability to put yourself out there. I think that is extremely, extremely important because, again, people still find it difficult to discover each other despite having been in the space for multiple years, right? And that's why the the climate party really found its place and need. So you really need to put yourself out there, make the effort of reaching out to people, and of course help them in any way that you can. And that's the biggest thing I've seen until now. We have a very, very, I would say, high on energy TCP WhatsApp group, which buzzes with so many debates, discussions, and a lot of help. And I've gotten so many messages from members where, they were actually sharing their astonishment of how, when they put a query, the query was resolved within 5 minutes because so many people come forward to help.
I think that makes for a really great message for future professionals that people are out there to help each other, especially in this industry. I think more so than others. If you're working on climate action, there is a belief that you work as a collective to solve this problem. So people are more enthusiastic about collaborating with each other. So that's definitely there. And of course, Climate Party solves that problem in a big way by connecting people to each other.
Why I feel this also happens is because climate change is not easy to understand. It's quite complex. It has multiple layers. So everybody is learning on the go. There's nobody who can say that I know everything about climate change, right? Because the
Yeah.
science keeps evolving. Something that was true yesterday may not be true tomorrow. So everybody is learning on the go, and people, I think, are very open to learning from each other.
So for our last question, we wanted to know what would the childhood version of you think of what you're doing today in your career?
Well, I think my childhood version would be super inspired as well as proud of what I am doing today. And I think majorly for three reasons. I think one is because I think inspired by the idea of embracing uncertainties like they're my old close friends, right? Second is putting myself out there to be able to learn, because for me also, coming from not a climate background, I had to figure out everything from scratch, literally building a new career from scratch, right?
Mhm.
And then, of course, in the process, building something which is purpose led and meaningful. So, yeah, I think super proud and inspired because of these three things.
Yeah, but I think your story would inspire a lot of young people, and especially to bring whatever skills they have to the table and work with other people to solve problems. I think identifying a niche for yourself can seem really daunting, especially when you're starting out. So I think your advice of getting out there and being wrong and being open to learning and asking for help is really the way to go. Um, but yeah, I'll ask you if you have anything more you'd like to say to the next generation of climate professionals, or yeah.
One thing, because again, I keep speaking to so many people who want to get into climate, because
Mhm.
thankfully, and I'm grateful to the younger ones who really want to do something meaningful very early on in their careers. Climate change as a profession continues to be daunting in a way where the barriers to entry feel very high, because largely it is seen as a very technical field. What a lot of people don't realize is that that is not the case, because climate change is a horizontal, right, and affects everything. So there, people find it difficult to figure a fit for themselves. They don't know how their existing skills can complement this mission. So, in a way, from what I've seen play out, almost all skills can eventually be green skills. So, to put it very simply, any company working on a climate solution needs a storyteller, needs a finance person, needs a fundraising person, needs strategy folks, right? It is just about, I feel, raising your baseline awareness levels, because a lot of things are just learned on the job. All you need to find is the right set of people to work with, who will work with you to help you learn on the job. Again, I think everything starts with a mission here. So at least startup folks, now I see a lot of founders don't look for exact specific skill set fit, because it's not, again, easy to find the right sort of people. They look for people who are really passionate about what the company is trying to solve for, and they let their teams grow by learning on the job. So it's all about what you're doing, see how you can make a fit. And at the climate party, we're also helping people look for answers to this question, which is a very daunting question for a lot of young professionals, and not just young professionals, even mid-career professionals.
Absolutely. And hopefully, anyone listening will feel inspired to use whatever skills they have, come meet up with other people at climate parties, raise their awareness level by looking at resources online, places like your blog and, Transitions website and places like that can help them get to that opening entry level foot in the door start in climate change. So yeah, thank you so much for speaking to us today and for taking the time out. We really hope you enjoyed talking to us.
Thanks a lot for having me here again.
I hope this episode with Ms. Dogra has given you some insight into finding your niche and finding the right people to work with in the climate and policy landscape. You've been listening to the Monsoon Academy podcast, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. In the meantime, please write to us with any questions or comments and tell us what climate careers you might want us to cover next. See you next time.